Okay, so Wolves play West Ham tomorrow after what feels like probably the longest international break I can remember in a long time. And obviously, this is a really tough game. You know, it's probably one of the hardest games we could come back into. Obviously, then the Norwich game, which is kind of the opposite. But obviously, West Ham third in the Premier League right now, expected points has them fourth. So it's not like, they're there by fluke. They're there on merit, and it should be a game we're fearful for. And we have to respect David Moyes' West Ham, but I don't think this is some impossible game where we can't win. I think the way West Ham is set up actually kind of lends in our favour in certain ways, which I'll speak about in a minute. I'll speak about West Ham. I think there are some weaknesses to them that we can exploit. I'm actually more confident for this game than I was the Palace game last week. In terms of the lineup, quickly before I talk about West Ham, I'd kind of stick with the same back five in midfield personally. I don't think the issues against Palace were the defence. I've seen a lot of people want Willy Bolly to come in, which I understand why, but I don't think Bruno Lage will do it. I wouldn't do it either. I'd stick with that back three. I think it's been pretty good most of the season, and I wouldn't rush Willy Bolly back. So he gets one injury, then we've got no centre backs unless Jason Mosquera comes back out of nowhere. And I know this is kind of selfish, but maybe if we don't play Willy Bolly, maybe he won't get called up for the AFCON. I don't know what Ivory Coast's centre back options are like, but maybe he won't get called up. I'd keep Neves and Coutinho. Obviously, Aitner, got to play. I have a feeling that Marcel will play in this game. I don't know why. I just feel like Bruno Lage will do it, but I really hope he doesn't. And then I've actually gone with Podence and Adama, which I know is probably a bit random. Also, Huang looks like our only competent goal scorer right now, but I don't think he really does anything else. Adama's, and we haven't seen him play on the right yet, and I assume Bruno Lage doesn't see him playing on the right. And I feel like, I don't know, I just want to see Adama back on the left, just for one game. If he's terrible, fine, drop him. I'm not really that bothered about Adama. I'm bored of it now, but I want to see him play on the left, and I think Podence deserves a shot. I like Trincao. I think Trincao gets way more criticism than he deserves, but I still want to see Daniel Podence get a game. I'd just switch up. Why not? You can sub them both off at half time if you really have to, but and then obviously you have Raheem as up top. I just want to see a bit of a change on the wings. I just want to see it freshened up. I know Bruno Lage won't do it. It'll definitely be Huang and Trincao, but I think that could be an interesting front three personally. In terms of West Ham, the one thing that I was so happy to see when I checked is West Ham are the third lowest pressing side in the Premier League. Thank God. It feels like every team we've played recently are in the kind of top ones, and Bruno spoke about it. All the fans know it now. We can't handle a side that presses, and West Ham have 500 less pressures than Crystal Palace. So it's nice to see. This already gives me confidence, and of course that the game's at home. We seem to just play a lot better at home under Bruno Lage, which is kind of the opposite of what happened under Nuno. West Ham aren't like a bad pressing side in terms of like successful pressures. Like when they do press, they do it quite well, but they're not just like Crystal Palace who run like headless chickens, or Leeds, sides we've struggled against recently. And look, this doesn't mean we'll 100% beat them, but I think our main problem is dealing with a press, and the fact that West Ham don't do that is a big W for us. It's something we should be happy about. In terms of passes for West Ham, they're quite an aerial side. They're not, obviously I said they're in the top four right now, and they play like a top four side, but also they don't play like a traditional top four side, if you know what I mean. It's quite direct, and that's not an insult, by the way. I wish we were more like that sometimes. And the one thing I thought was interesting about West Ham as well is that they're not actually that. When I think of West Ham, I don't know why. I just think that they're really aerially dominant. Like when I was picking my 11, I was like, do I put Dendoncker in there? But do I put Willy Bolly in there? But their aerial win rate's very similar to ours, and I don't really associate us with having an amazing aerial side, and clearly West Ham don't either. So I don't think that's a big threat either, like it has been. I think like Crystal Palace, for example, was second highest in that metric. So I don't think that's a big threat for West Ham. Again, they're not a big possession side. You know, most of the traditional sides like Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, they're always high on there. West Ham aren't your traditional top four side, although they are playing like one right now. They don't kind of profile like that. Even when they beat us 4-0 last season on Nelson Semedo's debut, where we got ripped apart, I think we still had more possession in that game. So I'm not saying this will mean we won't play badly, but they're not going to dominate the ball. And I think this will help us. It will probably be a bit more like kind of probably that second half against Everton. I can kind of imagine it being like that sort of game, personally. One thing I thought was interesting as well is when you look at the amount of successful dribbles, we're top, which doesn't surprise me at all. Like we're full of play, our fullbacks, all our wingers, they're all dribblers. West Ham are actually bottom, which I thought was really surprising because when I think of Antonio, Benrahma, Bowen, who else is in their front line? Lanzini, all these guys that kind of rotate in behind Antonio. I kind of associate them as all being quite quick, dangerous guys, but they don't actually dribble that much, which I found surprising. And if you look at the percentage of dribbles tackled, so that's like one-on-ones, how defenders deal with dribbles. Again, West Ham, one of the lower sides in the league. So maybe that's kind of a potential weakness for West Ham that we can exploit, that maybe we are unique in that, as in Watford are kind of the two outstanding sides in terms of dribbles. Maybe that's something we can exploit. Be interesting to see if that happens. But obviously West Ham, I know I've kind of just been negative about West Ham in a lot of those metrics, but they are a good side. They're a shot dominant side. They get a lot of shots off. We're not a big shot side, especially after those first 3 games. We've kind of gone off a bit. We have sat off a bit. West Ham aren't that. They get loads of shots. They're not all really high quality shots necessarily, but they do get a lot of shots off, which I think we can handle. But of course, it's a concern. You don't want to face shots, right? Football's not a complicated game. And again, they get in good areas. They have high progressive passes numbers. They have high key passes numbers. They will get in good areas. And Josie Sol will have to do stuff this game. It's not going to be some easy game where we can just hold 60% of the ball and only face a couple of shots. West Ham will get in good areas. They will transition quickly. Personally, if we had more squad depth, I would play a midfield 3, but we just can't do it because then we'd have no midfielders on the bench. But I'd go this lineup. I'd bring in Adama and Podence. I'd try and win the aerial. I'd try and win in the air. I think we can handle West Ham's press because they don't do it that much. I don't know. We play better at home. It's after an international break. Maybe that's knocked West Ham's kind of momentum. I think we needed that international break. I don't think they did, and also Bonner's out as well, isn't he, for this game as well? So Craig Dawson will come in. I just think this game's come at a really good time for us. I'm actually quite confident we'll at least get a draw. I think everyone would take a draw, but I'm confident for this game. I think West Ham obviously they are a really good side, and they're someone we should want to be like in a few years' time. But I'm not terrified of West Ham. I think a lot of their things they're not great at we can exploit. So I'm going to go. I think we'll win this game. Why not? I'm actually more scared about Norwich for some reason. I don't know why. But if you enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. There'll be a review after the game, and obviously there's no international breaks anymore, so there'll be loads of videos coming out. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, peace.